Alabama's WVUA News at 5 with your award-winning news team, Lynn Brooks, Terry Brewer, weather with Richard Scott, and sports with Gary Harris.
Well, certainly very hot this afternoon. We've got your full forecast coming up.
We're glad you're with us tonight. I'm Lynn Brooks. And I'm Terry Brewer. There is plenty of reaction coming after today's Supreme Court ruling on health care. Reporter Stacey Cohen has the latest from Washington.
The sidewalk outside the Supreme Court was abuzz with activity just prior to and immediately following this ruling. Now, the Health Care Act had 450 provisions, but one in particular, the individual mandate, was the subject of much attention. That was upheld by this court in a narrow vote of 5-4. It was a highly anticipated ruling on polarizing legislation. And on the final day before summer recess, the Supreme Court ruled on the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act. At the heart of the controversy, the individual mandate. It required most Americans to be covered by health insurance or pay a fine. In a narrow vote of 5-4, the Supreme Court ruled that provision is constitutional under the clause of the Constitution that deals with taxes. Chief Justice John Roberts wrote the majority opinion saying, quote, "The federal government does not have the power to order people to buy health insurance. The federal government does have the power to impose a tax on those without health insurance." It is a huge victory for the president. This is considered the signature legislation of his time in office. Mr. Obama says the court's decision goes beyond politics.
Whatever the politics, today's decision was a victory for people all over this country, whose lives will be more secure because of this law.
Republican presidential candidate Mitt Romney repeated his pledge to work for the repeal of so-called Obamacare if elected.
What the court did not do on its last day in session, I will do on my first day if elected president of the United States. And that is, I will act to repeal Obamacare.
So that is the immediate political reaction to this ruling, but this is an election year, and one thing's for certain, you are likely to hear much more about health care in the months to come. In Washington, I'm Stacey Cohen. Back to you.
Alabama Governor Robert Bentley released this statement about the ruling. It said, in part, "I am deeply disappointed by today's Supreme Court decision. The health care law is an overreach by the federal government that creates more regulation, bureaucracy, and a dramatic increase in cost to taxpayers. The ACA is the single worst piece of legislation to come out of Congress. This law must be repealed." Those words are today from Alabama Governor Robert Bentley. Beyond the politics and legal talk, understanding how the law affects real people is what lots of people want to know.
And that means both patients and healthcare providers. Healthcare providers in West Alabama say the Supreme Court's ruling answers the constitutional question of putting in place an insurance mandate, but they say there are still a lot that hasn't been answered. Things like regulation and the concept of insurance products may change to cater to all Americans. And officials say that makes it hard to know exactly how certain organizations will be affected. That being said, overall, they say this day is a significant one for our nation's history.
I think it's safe to say that this will set the stage for a pretty momentous change, perhaps not as big as 1965 when Medicare and Medicaid were created, but it's certainly going to be a major change in the face of health care.
The EWTN Global Catholic Network says it will continue its fight for religious liberty. As we've reported, the network filed suit against the U.S. government earlier this year to halt the implementation of the so-called contraception mandate. Another big story we're following for you, the extreme heat across West Alabama.
That's right. We're in store for several days of triple-digit temperatures, high temperatures. Chief Meteorologist Richard Scott has the latest. Hey there, Richard.
Yeah, hey Terry and Lynn, we're talking extreme heat over the next several days. Very hot for this time of the year, even for summer standards. Typically, temperatures don't get quite this hot until we get into the month of August. We're talking 100 for the city of Tuscaloosa, 100 in Coleman, and triple digits across much of the area. The hot spot right now, northern Lamar County, Sulligent at 101. We're looking towards the radar, see if we have any rain to talk about. And hey, nothing out there, no rain, no cloud covering. We will stay dry through this evening and tonight. And here's that quick cast, by the way, tonight. If you have plans out to dinner, it's going to be mild through 10 o'clock, 83, clear skies In fact, 75 at midnight. But how about that all-important weekend forecast leading up to 4th of July? Your forecast is straight ahead.
All right, thank you, Richard. In these extreme type of temperatures, it can take just a few minutes for some people to become sick. DCH Regional Medical Center Director of Emergency Medicine, Dr. Derek Jones, says the ER sees a spike in heat-related cases when the temperatures go up. Jones says those hit hardest are the people in the extreme age categories, the youngest and the oldest. Dr. Jones says the key to protecting yourself is to always stay hydrated and pay attention to what your body needs and if your discomfort progresses.
Once you stop sweating, then that's very concerning, because that really means that your body's not handling the heat well at all, and the mechanisms that our bodies use to control our temperature have failed. And at that point, the temperature just goes up and up and up, and you get really, really sick.
The State Health Department says heat stroke is the most serious heat-related illness. That's why it's important to be aware of warning signals. There include these: extremely high body temperature, red, hot, and dry skin, rapid pulse, throbbing headache, dizziness, nausea, confusion, and unconsciousness. You can learn more about heat-related illnesses from the Alabama Department of Public Health. For a shortcut to their site, go to our site. That's WVUATV.com. From there, you'll want to go to the numbers and links section. Well, tonight we are excited to bring you our special sit-down interview with Alabama Athletics Director Mal Moore.
Moore sat down with our own John Huddleston recently, and they talked about a number of different things. John joins us live with more.
Hey, Lynn and Terry. Yeah, it was a candid conversation with Coach Moore. We talk about a number of topics, including the recent success the Crimson Tide has experienced across the board. And you know, this has been a remarkable year for Alabama athletics, winning 4 national championships. But beyond that, our conversation extended into Coach Moore's time at Alabama, how much longer he plans to be on the job, and what his relationship is like with Coach Saban. I also asked him if the transition from football coach to administrator back in the day was a difficult one.
A little bit, yeah. Because, you know, when I first was like a associate AD, or when my wife got real sick, then it got to a point I couldn't do both. So I was offered a position, and fortunate that happened for me. And so it was a tough time for me then.
And be sure to join us tonight at 10. That's when we'll air the extended version of our interview. We hope to see you at 10. Guys, back to you.